Hey, TikTok. I decided to come back and tell part one to kind of just give you an eye opening of what happened to me when I started this job. So, I started the job on January the 18th of 2024. And what's so crazy is, let me tell you all my day when I interviewed for the job. So when I interviewed for the job, I actually was working for a contract company before then, trying to just find out, okay, is HR my niche? Is this something that I want to do long-term career-wise? It was a totally, completely different career field from where I was coming from. So I was like, you know what? Let's just hop out there and just try. It was a contract job. It was a temporary job. And, I was like, why not? Just why not take a chance? So I ended up working at the job. Long story short, we got called into an auditorium that day and was told that the company was expanding like a $50 billion deal or something like that. And most of the contractors were going to be let go. So I was let go that day. And then that evening, like 4 or 5 hours later, I had the interview for what I quote unquote called my dream job. So I walked into the interview. Everything seemed to be pretty much okay. The vibe seemed to be okay, except for one particular person, which we're going to call her SG. So remember that name, SG. She's the previous HR manager. So she was the HR manager over the whole office, and I could just tell that she really wasn't vibing with me like that. But anyways, I ended up getting the job, and I was super excited about it and super grateful. Anybody that knows when you're in transition between jobs, how stressful that can be sometimes, especially working a temporary and contract job, because you just never know kind of what's going to be what. But anyways, I took the pay cut. I started at a very entry-level job, very entry-level job. Very entry-level. So, but I wanted the opportunity to work for this company, this higher education company, because I love school. I love education. I love learning. So it was kind of like a company that I always inspired to work at, even since I was a little girl. So I started working there, and my first day was January the 18th of 2018. And when I walked in, y'all, let me tell you something. It was one of the most welcoming times I've ever had at a job. They decorated my desk. I had balloons, I had signs, I had cards when I first came in. It was the ultimate onboarding experience. Like, I would want everybody to experience that on that first day, because it makes you just feel like, oh, okay, I'm going to be a part of the group. This is going to be a good thing. This is going to be a good vibe, a good time. So, yeah. So, we end up going on. I end up getting training, and my immediate supervisor was KH. Now, those are the initials that you really need to know, because KH is going to be told throughout this story a lot, as well as SG too. But KH, which was a woman that looked like me, who became like a mentor to me. She had been with the company for almost 10 or 13 years. She ended up interning at the company. From what I understand, when she was younger, some things transpired. She was let go. She moved upstate, and then she came back to the organization, and they gave her another chance, basically. So she rebuilt her career there. And she ended up becoming my supervisor. We were going to lunch, every week. Every Friday, we had this thing like $5 Friday, where you can kind of get anything you want to eat, kind of like a buffet. So we used to do that as a team, and, it was just so much fun. When I first got there, I just felt like, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity. Everybody don't get this opportunity. So then KH, one day told me a story about our AVP, which our AVP, we're going to call her JK. So she told me a story how LM, that's another character that's in here, LM went to JK and said, hey, JK, The previous HR manager before SG got there, which we're going to call her JC. JC is just so overbearing. You know, she wants, you know, things done in a certain way. I think one of the things they told me is like she liked her paper staple to the left. Like if you brought her some documents that she needed to sign off on, she would make you go back and staple it, you know, with a stapler on the right hand side. I don't know if that's true. It could be. I don't know. I thought that was just bizarre and crazy. But anyways, so she went to JKLM and said, hey, I'm, you know, busting in tears and was just like, you know, I'm overwhelmed. You know, JC is just, you know, basically doing too much, you know, and she can't handle it and she can't take it. So KH told me to always remember this. She said, JK is fiercely protective of the people that look like her. And if the people that look like her go and cry to her, basically that's the end of you. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that's a thank you for a heads up, but it always stuck in the back of my mind. So, you know, I built trust with KH. I was like, oh, okay, she's trying to give me the heads up. You know, she's trying to look out for me. She's just trying to, you know, let me know kind of what environment I'm working in, you know. And y'all, that was not the case at all. We are going to talk about in part 2 the turn and the conversation with KH. Now remember, everything's good at this point. Everything's, how can I say it, lovely. Until she decided that I want to stand up for myself. I had to take a pause. So come back for part 2 and we'll get into the story.